Hey everybody, welcome. Hopefully you guys had a good lunch. How's SAINTCON going for everybody so far? Good, glad to hear it. I know there's a lot of people put a lot of effort in to pull this off for you guys, so I'm glad you guys are having a good time. My name is James Pope. I work at UEN as an InfoSec analyst. I'm over our compliance, and I go around the state and I train teachers, superintendents, principals, IT people, etc. on security awareness training. So we try to give them some path to make kind of a boring topic something they can retain and take something away from it. And we're going to touch more on that as we go. So yeah, as I said, I'm the InfoSec analyst there. I also, for many years, was the director of IT for Metropolitan Theaters. I still am. I hold that. So I bring that up because we'll touch on movie-related and tie-ins on this. I'm actually going to be leaving UEN soon to do my own thing. I'm an owner and partner in Pope Tech. I have some of my brothers that do it with me. So I'll be transitioning more to that role coming soon, November-ish. But there are great people at UEN who will continue this resource and keep it going, and I'll continue to be part of SAINTCON. That doesn't go away. I also participate in a bunch of things. Obviously, SAINTCON, you're here. I'm the committee member for the AV, but have lots of amazing staff and volunteers that actually do the real work. I help out with B-Sides at DC 801, team lead at Black Hat. NATO sounds cooler than it is. It's actually kind of funny. It's the National Association of Theater Owners that they call themselves NATO. So I do sit on the NATO Tech Committee and the NATO Cybersecurity Task Force, which I pretty much got that going, and that was after the Sony breach. So I sit on some boards where we talk about studios and cinemas and how they get compromised and things we can do to protect ourselves. I do have degrees and certs. They're kind of boring, so we don't really talk about that. Everybody just calls me Pope because it's easy for them to understand and know. Obviously, my brothers don't, because that would just be confusing. But my name is James Pope. I respond to either one. It's okay. There's a Twitter handle if you care to reach there. All right, so the primary of this, I think the title, Troy picked it, the boss man over at UEN and the guy who also runs SAINTCON, and it was like effective security awareness training with other stuff. The primary goal of this would be to give somebody something they can take away and explain the why and the how that this actually matters to them. If we're not doing that, we're missing the point, and nothing's going to come out of it. It'll just be a waste of time. I had some slides of the really boring security awareness trainings. We're not going to touch on those, but we've been through, we've seen it. They're just painful, right? 12 to 15 slides. We have a compliance checkbox. We're just going to get through this, right? You guys sit down, put your head down, get in your laptop. I'm going to get here and just mow through it, right? We've all been a part of those. There's government ones. There's ones that have spun off because of it. What's minimally required in there, and let's do it. And as we know, if we're just doing compliance for the sake of compliance, we're missing the point, right? A great example of that would be I went and consulted an environment. They had a very nice IDS IPS system, very expensive, very high end, right? But we dig into it, and it is applied to none of the right zones. Rightfully so. They went and segmented their network, broke it from a flat to a segmentation, and didn't apply the IDS IPS to those segmented zones. So we have this LAN zone with no hosts on, right? And then we have these broken out ones that have all the hosts and nothing's scanning or looking at it. Can they check the box that says they have an IDS IPS? Good question, right? Different varying answers depending on who the auditor is. In my opinion, no. But can they look at themselves in the face and say, do we have an IDS IPS? Yes, we do, a very nice one. Oh, and it's alerting to somebody's Hotmail account who quit 3 years ago, right? So if we're just doing compliance for the sake of compliance, we're completely missing the point. Security to keep operations going. Security is a part of IT, and IT is part of your business. This is all business decisions. Right? I know IT like to think these are IT decisions, security, these are security decisions. But at the end of the day, these are business decisions. And they have to be either mitigated, fixed, or accept the risk. That is their choice to do. Our job, security, is to explain what those are and make sure they're aware of it. And I always like to get it in writing, so I'm not the fall guy. So, all right, so we're going to explain some why. I'm going to maybe throw up a few made-up stats here. This is one of them, but most PowerPoint presentations we sit through, especially those government security awareness ones, for the most part, there might be exceptions, we just forget them. We don't care about. And the example I use on this is an airplane ticket. And maybe I'm the exception, but I don't think I am. I've witnessed plenty of people doing the same thing. How many of you remember your airplane information, what gate you're at, and your seat, right? You pick it up, you look at it, okay, where am I sitting? Okay, 24C, right? And put it in our pocket, and we're good, right? What happens is I get onto the plane. Oh, wait, hang on, where was that at? 24C, okay. Then I walk down the aisle, put it back in the pocket. I get partway down the aisle. 24C, right? Because we don't need to, we don't retain some things. If they don't matter to us, they don't mean anything, we're not repeating them, we don't retain it. My mind knows that this is worthless information the moment I sit down, right? So I just, right? And hopefully I'm not the only, I know I'm not the only one. I watch people on the planes do it all the time. Keep pulling it out. 1, 2, probably about 5 times between the moment we checking gates, before we sit down, right? So I don't know if 9% is the proper number, but a lot of the information we're giving, people are just not paying attention, right? They literally just want to hit that compliance checkbox and move on to the next thing. So what message do you want people to have? What do you want them to take away? And the reality is they're not going to take away everything you're presenting on. And you guys sitting here aren't going to take away everything I'm presenting on. You're not. You're going to forget a lot of it, or you're not going to care about it. But my objective is to have them take away something. Something. Start somewhere. Do something. Care about one thing that they used to not care about. This is maybe a little more related to presentations in general versus security awareness, but we seem to overwhelm people with the stuff we're giving them in security awareness trainings. We're giving them this massive dump, again, compliance, and maybe it's some dumb corporate policy that says you can't have more than 15 slides. So what do? We shove them all in, right? Well, I got to get all this information. We're going to shove it all on this slide. We're going to shove it on this, or we have a time slot that's really narrow. 15 minutes, security awareness training, go. So what do? We just dump it all in as fast as we can. And I don't think anybody's taken away anything effective from that. I think having a limit on your slides is dumb. It's dumb. The goal is to get across a good message to improve the posture of the org. So while these don't seem security related, they are, because we want them to take away something from this and not just ruin it. The other thing is giant sentences. It's okay to pause for a little bit and let people read them. Me, I don't multitask. I multitask well, but we're still single-threaded, right? Like we can't read things as well as when people's listening. We want to focus on one thing or the other. Am I reading something or am I listening to you? And if you want a clear, concise message and you have a long sentence, put it up there and wait a second. And those who care are going to care, and those who don't won't anyway. But doing both, all right? Another one, this is pretty interesting. You'll see this out throughout my slides. The headlines will be small, because I want you to focus on the content. The headline doesn't really matter. That's my reference point for the most part. What matters is what's in the middle, right? But we always want to do these giant headlines. This is it, phishing. And then below is like, oh, this is all data. That's the important part. People, we are sheep. We know, so we go to social engineering. We follow certain triggers, and we're going to see some of that. Contrast, I use a lot, and headlines. What I want you to read is going to be the biggest thing on the screen. And when you do your training, it should be pretty similar. Okay, so now we're starting. All right, so I use topics, not like effective security awareness training, right? That seems more like a compliance checkbox thing to say. But if you have to do that, that's great. I like to use topics like think like a hacker. So when I go do a security awareness training, this is generally my topic. And the reason that is, I want them to think about it, from an IT perspective, and why would a person even do this? I get asked that a lot. Why would somebody ever want to ransomware me? Right? Let's talk about that. Let's say why they want to do these things, right? So really, I guess high level, I'm going to give you my security awareness training, and then we're going to talk about it, and hopefully you can take something away that you can also give that same security awareness training or your own version or better to your own organization. So we're going to kind of run through it, but it won't be my normal spill. It'll be here's some reasoning behind why I present these way. The number one question I ask, why would people even do these things, right? So I want to get that really clear out front. They do it for money. And even when it's not money, we'll come back to that. Even when it's not money, it's still money. And this is a long, boring sentence, and I'm not going to read it, and I don't even expect you guys to read it. But all it essentially says is stuff you guys already know. Even when you're not the primary target or it doesn't appear it's after you, most of the time they're using you to attack somebody else, right? There are some additional things, hacktivism, stuff like that we can chat about another time, another topic. So I like to throw a slide or something up here at the beginning to just say, it's okay. There will be information here that some people find overwhelming. We're at a security con. You guys are kind of used to this. Our sensitivity level and baseline of scary things in security is a little more tolerance than the average user. Know your audience, but know that you're likely going to overwhelm them. And the goal's not FUD. It's not to scare, gloom and doom. It's to show them the reality. These things exist. Here's the risk involved, and here's some steps we can take. So we're not here to just spit fire and breathe dragons at you, right? It's okay. We'll get to it. So, from a movie background, I've been in the movie theater since the year 2000. I got to show you movie stuff, right? So this is Hollywood's version of what hacking is. And again, you guys already know these things, but I'm going to show you an example of, again, what we're presenting in security awareness training. If I can find one. Internet. All right, volume up, please. John.
Best crackers in the world can do this in 60 minutes. I need someone who can do it in 60 seconds.
You're kidding.
Afraid not. Go.
I need you to access the system.
Give you full access to their system.
You have to access the system. It's not the least.
Oh, buffering. Should have brought my USB-C to RJ45.
Accessible system.
What's the holdup? Just accessing the system.
Angela, I've access to system.
She was.
Well, we might have to forego this. We'll see how it goes. We'll let it buffer one more time, then I'm giving up. All right, that's enough. All right, well, anyway, it goes through a bunch of stuff. Accessing a system, breaking encryption, punching through the firewall. And so I ask everybody in the audience generally, so this is what hacking is, right? Like this is what we're taught. This is what the average person is taught what hacking is breaking encryption, accessing system, logging in, dumping the files, right? Right? We have some pen testers out there. I can see them, right? How many times have you punched through a firewall, right? Does that exist? Maybe user creds, admin, right? Rarely is it punch. It's a vulnerability maybe in the stack of that firewall, but it's not realistic. But that is what the consumer, that's what the average person thinks security is. So I always try to break it down to say, okay, in your standard organization of a Windows system, which makes up, 95% of every customer I've ever dealt with, there are other ones, but that is the majority. How would an attacker realistically go about attacking you? Let them understand the why and the how, and then they're more willing to work with you and actually help you and be your agent to tell you when these things are wrong and shifty or I accidentally clicked on something. So I give them this high level. There are other attack methods. There's web apps, all sorts of stuff. But this is the high level most organizations we walk into. How would we really go about attacking them? Well, just phish them, right? And that's not sexy in the pen testing world. Oh, phishing, that's a lazy man's game. Yeah, but why does it happen? Because it works. You just phish them. Send them a phishing email or walk through their front door. And what do I mean by that? Any assessment we go on before, I go and check the dumped databases of passwords for their organization. And the first thing we do is try to just log in, right? Their passwords are on the internet. They're already sitting out there. Have they changed them since the LinkedIn breach, the Yahoo breach? Have they changed them since things? If not, we literally can just walk through your front door, right? If their password had the word like blank, blank, spring, blank in it, I might change that to fall, tweak it up a little bit, but walk in their front door. The next is I would leverage what they already have, such as there's a lot of places still running local admin. We're going to talk on that a little bit. And if you can already running local admin, you've made an attacker's job way, 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 way easier. And there's also their entire motive is not really to get your intellectual property things, just to ransomware you, right? There's big organizations you hear about all the time. We're going to touch on more ransomware. And I'm not really going to talk about it, but missing patches as well. That's just not a fun or sexy topic. Apt-get update, Windows update. But that is critical. There's some big ones that MS 1710, 1017, that one, we used that on a pen test and went right through on a missing patch. So that's there too. All right, anybody know what this is from? I heard it. Say it louder. Yes, Missile Commander. So this was one of my favorite games. These are your cities down here, right? You got to protect these cities. And there's these missiles coming from, presumably Russia. I don't know, right? This is made back in the day. So these missiles are coming down, and you just had to shoot them. And this is kind of how information security worked for a while. We need to protect the perimeter, right? We just get this firewall, everything's good here. And it worked actually pretty well if you had a pretty legit firewall, until we intentionally poked holes in it. And the two things that we poked the holes the most for was for email and for web browsing. We want email to come through. We want it to come through our firewall. I need it on my machine. So we're intentionally making holes in there. So what's your two likely most vulnerable things? It's going to be through email and web browsing, phishing, etc. So we no longer protect the perimeter. I'm not saying give up on your perimeter. I run a SOAR project for UEN, which is systems outside of restricted environment. And there's a lot of that stuff that's hanging out there too, Internet of Things devices and stuff like that. I'm not saying give up on your perimeter either. But we can no longer just protect the perimeter because we intentionally, as a business decision, are letting things through our perimeter. We want them through our perimeter. So this is, again, long and boring about phishing. We're not going to talk about it. We know what phishing is here in this environment. But I do like to give people a description of what it is. It's just a social engineering tactic to get you to do something that you wouldn't normally do or aren't expected to do, right? Something you shouldn't do. So the two things of phishing, that the objectives mainly would be portals, and portals is going to be a link or credential harvesting. When we do it at UEN, we do credential harvesting because, we do some links too. We don't do payloads. Sorry, we do portals. We send links and credential harvesting. The goal there is to get you to put your password in to something else into one of our pages, and it happens surprisingly a lot, right? We'll talk about some of that why. And the other is payloads. You see this, we'll take a stop for a second. You see this contrast, same page, right? But where do your eyes go? We're like sheep, right? Payloads. Anyway, use that to your advantage on your slides. You can have more information on there, but you will follow along where your eyes, bigger font, contrast is your friend. Okay, so payloads. We don't use payloads because we'll send out like a coupon for ice cream and then people forward it, right? And then we're getting shells from people's mom and sister and whatever. So, but criminals don't care about that. They don't care if you forward it to your mother. They don't care if somebody else gets it. That's all in scope, right? They're criminals. Everything's in scope. So there are other ways to use payloads, restrict IP addresses and stuff like that. We generally stay away from payloads, but criminals don't. And they'll hook your browser or get access to your system and, hey, are you already an admin? Teaser for later. Okay, so this would be a part of the standard security training slide, right? We've all seen this. Circle the things, where's it really coming from? And this is good. This isn't bad. I think it's good to have it in here to talk on some of these things. What I prefer to do is I run, from other stuff that I do, I have this essentially a black hole email address that just collects all the things that get sent to an entire domains. And what I do is I just go through them and I find the phishing. And I try to pull out the real world examples of what's coming through and try to get relevant. This one's a little bit older, but I have a story on this one. So we're going to talk on some of these. So try to make it matter, the why. How does it affect your organization? In this example right here, they're coming from a position of vulnerability. Pay this invoice, penalty. You're going to get a penalty. What's the penalty? I don't know. I don't like penalties. I've been trained as a kid. Penalties are bad. I don't want that. So what do we have here? We have an invoice as a doc file. How common is that? Should we have invoices as doc files? It's not a good practice anyway. Even as a small business owner, you send them as PDFs, right? But there's some stuff there. But that's a little shady too. It was coming from France, right? We know some of these things. So the point of these would be to point out some things they should be looking for, what's suspicious, but real world stuff, right? This one's pretty new. This was in the last 2 months. So here we have, your email account's going to get deactivated. Well, nobody wants that. We want our email to work. And the primary message I try to get through on phishing is that and any social engineering really is timing is on your side, right? As a criminal or as somebody pen testing, I want you to act on it impulsively. I want you to look at that and be like, my email's going to expire. Click. Okay, good. It's good. I put in my credentials. We're good. It hasn't expired. We're great. Everything's happy, right? But that's a credential harvesting portal just to get us to get your credentials to log in. Timing is on your, eerie. Timing is on your side. In this scenario, I was asked, what would you do in this scenario? What should you do? Go to the source. Check your source. You know how to go log in your email. Go log in your email. Check the source. Do not send the links or the phone numbers or anything else that somebody sends you. Those are suspicious, but you can always go to the source. We sent one phishing campaign at one district, and a lady comes in. She knows we were there for training, right? But she comes in and she's like, is this you guys? And puts down a paper with a coupon for ice cream, something like that. And I was like, why would you say that? That appears to clearly be from some ice cream place, right? And she's like, I went to their Facebook page and I didn't see any advertisement for this coupon. And I was like, you should be teaching this. Go to the source. Go check it, right? That's the way to do it. Go validate it. If I walk in and say I'm with Comcast, right, and you get suspicious, no. And I'm like, well, go ahead and call. I give you my card. You call. It's just probably John sitting in the car, right? Like, don't trust the information that we're giving you. Validate it. There is ways to validate. Timing is on your side. Take a breath. Slow down. We don't need to breathe scorpions, right? There used to be about the English and stuff. That still exists, bad English and whatnot, but it's getting way better. They're getting harder and harder to detect these things. You could also just call your IT team. Hey, you deactivating my email? No. Okay, report that as phishing, right? Here's another one, pretty recent. So I don't know if you guys can read that in the back, because these rooms are long, even though this is a huge screen. But essentially here, this position is a position of fear, right? Okay, so what should you do in this scenario? In the back, it essentially says, I'm your lawyer of your wife, and here's your divorce papers, right? If you can't read that. Hopefully you have a good enough relationship to just call your wife. I'm not going to speak for what you do or don't have, but there are red flags in here, right? We have, the link is biteshop.co.za/divorce/divorce. That might be a red flag, right? It's coming from who knows where, entlaw.com. I don't know. There's a lot of shadiness here. I suspect you should call your wife at this point and not go clicking on these links. But these work. These work. People are, maybe they have a bad relationship. Oh no, she finally filed, or thank goodness she filed, right? Who knows? This one legitimately happened at an org I was doing stuff for. They essentially just got an email that says, I'm not in the office. Wire me a payment today, right? And so they started corresponding with them. Hey, what do you need? How do you need? And they were about to transfer $10,000. And the only reason it stopped was because the account it was being transferred to is called Romanian Relief Fund. And that they're like, that seems weird, right? So it actually, if they had named that anything related to their industry, they would have transferred $10,000. And so we sat down and I was like, what should we do in this scenario? Have we ever had a time where we've ever wired money? No. Would a phone call be warranted in this scenario if we would? Yes, but it said I couldn't take phone calls. Okay, can we just make a rule that says we don't transfer money without a phone call? How many times have we ever transferred money? Never. Okay, well, this seems simple, but yet people want to please their boss. This came from the boss, right? And this one, I always like to say, where's it really going? In this case, if they hit reply, it was going to CEO, CFO, 1956 at yahoo.com. But where it was coming from appeared to be the CEO of the company. Why would a hacker spoof the from, but not the reply to? Because we want to be in the, you got one? Go for it. Yeah, so he said, so they actually get the reply. Absolutely. You can spoof the from, but if I also spoof the reply to match the CEO, where's it going to go? It's going to go to the CEO. That's not good for me as an attacker. I need it to come to me. I need that $10,000. We don't want to have her legitimately transfer to the CEO or him be like, wait, what? $10,000? No. So there are logical things we can put in place. Let's make a phone call. Let's stop and think about this. Have we ever wire transferred money? No, maybe we shouldn't do that. But this happens. There was one, like some airline jet transferred millions of dollars from like an email like this. That's crazy. That shouldn't happen, right? That should be some sort of validation check. I don't know. A controller has to get involved, something. You shouldn't be able to just transfer thousands of dollars. And most of you in positions don't. But we're trying to prove the motive here. Why do people do these things, right? To get money. They want money. Okay, so here's this one's pretty recent too. This was probably about 5 months ago. And so what's like huge red flags on this one? I haven't seen a portal that takes Gmail, also takes Yahoo, also takes Office 365, takes AOL, takes a whole lot of companies I've never even heard of. But what they bank on is our mind says, I've seen that logo. That's ours. I'm going to put my credentials in. Perfect. Oh, I got redirected to a 404 page. Oh, whatever, it didn't work. So this is a perfect credential harvesting. And it does get complicated with more and more pages that are being single sign-on and integrated. But you can always go to the source. Go to your company's portal directly. Don't use these things, right? And this one's huge. This has wrecked a few things. We've had to do a bunch of ransomware cleanup from just this. So let's take a minute and talk about this. Okay, Microsoft Word macros. I'm not saying there's never been a business use for it. I'm just saying I've never seen a legitimate business use for it. I have seen a legitimate business use for an Excel macro. They also should die. But I have never seen a legitimate business use for a Microsoft Word macro. And so what happens? We open a document, this pops up. Click the enable, click, make it accessible, editing. And we're like, boom, boom. And let's just be clear to users on what that's doing. We are essentially saying, there is a script here. Would you like that script to run on your operating system? That's what it's saying. And people are like, sure, let's run that script, right? And depending on how fast their computer is, they might not even see that PowerShell window pop up, right? Most of the time, they'll see it for a second, dumps it, closes it, right? Ooh, hook, back end, dials back to me. Hey, I got a session, yay, right? That's how it works. Just be clear on what this is to them. If you're in IT or somebody with decision-making ability, you can write a group policy to just shut these off. You should never allow macros, especially Word macros. I would venture to say all of them, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, but say you're running some old legacy Excel thing, you have to have it for whatever reason. Redesign a way to fix that, but shut off Word. Get rid of Word. You just Google it. In fact, if you hit me up later, I'll even send you the exact thing to put in your group policy to shut down Word macros. That should be in everybody's environment or all macros. Because, like all things, we have technical controls, user controls, management controls, right? This would be a technical control to keep the user from doing something they shouldn't do. We absolutely should do that. But this whole training is about there are things that are outside of our ability because we've let things through the firewall. If it was just technical control, we would just shut off email, take down web browsing. Boom, technical control, system hardened, right? We're good. Well, is that feasible? It's not, so we need user controls as well. But both are good. You can't neglect one or the other. All right, so I always like to stop. Again, this is a training on a training, so it's a little different, but ask questions on this. I saw this thing, and how do I do this thing? And the reality is almost all the questions on phishing or social engineering come back to go validate it. And don't validate it with what they're sending you. Validate it in the right channel. Almost all your orgs have an IT department, or you are them, or you are the security, right? We can validate these things. Teach your users to not accept what's coming through. If it seems suspicious, go validate it. Go check at the source. If Chase Bank sends me an email that says, your account's been compromised, click here to reset it, that does concern me. I do want to get that cleared up, but I'm not going to click on that email link. I'm going to go to chase.com and go and check, right? Validate it at the source. And if you guys do have questions on phishing, go for it. All right. This is a good crew. I like security people and their mindsets. It's good. Okay, so the next one, we talked about what? Phishing. I just phished you. Second is I just walked through your front door. So this is from the Verizon breach report. That's from their documents of how people are breached and why they were breached. And they're saying it's 63% involve their crappy passwords or already known passwords. In our case, we legitimately just try to log in with the passwords we already know, as we talked about. So these are what I generally like to talk about with people on passwords. Dictionary attack being kind of the go-to is all the known passwords that are out there. If we can get an offline login of something, we will absolutely shove that dictionary list against it, and we will sort it by probability. So what does that mean? I think the number one is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And it's going to try the top passwords for the first 100 people in milliseconds. It's just going to blast through them. So what are protections from things like that? Allow only 5 login attempts, things like that. Timeouts, cooldown periods, so many times before an admin's required, right? So I always like to explain what a dictionary attack is. How does a person do that? Brute forcing is kind of like the last one. That takes forever and it sucks, and nobody wants to do it. But it does exist. So then we talk about passwords and entropy. And entropy is your friend in password. The chaos of the universe is your friend on a password. Use the example of a flip a coin from a computer science class, right? Professor says, everybody here's a quarter. Walk around, give you all a quarter piece of paper. Flip this coin and write down heads or tails. Heads or tails, heads or tails. And do that 100 times. Or make it up. And they'll come back and they can tell almost every single time who made it up and who flipped the coin. Because when you make it up, our mind, when you really do it, there's going to be a pattern between 7 to 12 that'll be in a row, heads or tails. But our mind, that's not random enough, so we break it up. That's just a very simple example of how we reduce entropy with our head. No matter how random we want to be, close my eyes, hold the shift button, hit some buttons, it's still not as random as a computer would generate. We have a lower entropy than what a computer would do. So entropy is your friend. Pattern guessing, we kind of talked about a little bit. The password has, at the very end of it, Q1, Q2, Q3. What's the next one? Q4, right? Spring, summer, fall, we see these a lot. These are from rules of change them every 90 days. People just come up with easy ways to get around it. Add a 1, add a 2, add an exclamation point. That always seems to be the best one. Add a number 1. If you're using those, you're already in a lower entropy. If your one special character is an exclamation point, you're already lower than everybody else. I'm not saying it should just change it to the @ sign, but it is lower. And then when cracking hashes, if you can get them offline, we put them in a cracking rig and go crack hashes. We don't spend too much on that with average users because it just confuses them a lot. But just show them these type of things exist out there. So here's what the password compliance used to be. Everybody knows this. We've been through this compliance training where it's, alphanumeric, 1 upper, 1 lower, change every 90 days, special characters, kind of what you're talking about. So the security industry is essentially coming back and saying, this isn't really good for users. Users just do exactly what I just told you. Add a Q1, Q2, Q3, and we're not improving our passwords. We can literally take the LinkedIn dump and add a Q2 at the end of it and still log in. It's not a good password. It's not working. So they've changed that to this. It can't be a known password, right? If it's already in a dictionary list, that is considered a burn token, burn password. It can't be used anymore. It is gone. You can't use it. The next is try not to use them from same services, same systems, especially personal to business and critical things. You guys, as IT and security people, are critical people. You have access to an immense amount of things, from scanners to what, name it. An attacker wants your information, right? And if you use that same one from your Chase Bank that maybe really might get compromised to your core server infrastructure firewall, that's a problem. You can't do that. Length is the number 1 preferred. And if you can two-factor it, you absolutely should. And almost everything is getting to that place where you can two-factor it for a pretty reasonable amount of money and do it. And like Google, it's built in. Literally check a box. No more rolling code. You can just hit approve or deny. There's no reason why you can't get people to do that. We first tried to roll out two-factor a long time ago, and the rolling codes, people accepted them. CEOs, executives hated them. Hated it. I'm not doing it. And if they're not doing it, then there's no buying anywhere else. The moment you can go to a Duo or a Google yes or no, CEOs are fine with that. They actually kind of like the control of hitting yes or no, right? Yes, I approve this thing. So do it, roll it out. Make it simple for the users, right? And multi-factor doesn't cut it. I put it in there because lots of people, I go in, we do the audit, and they're like, well, it's two-factor. And I'm like, okay, let's walk through it. And they're like, yeah, I put a username and password in, and then I put another password in. And I'm like, no. It's not the same. What if I already have that box? I have everything you put in that box. There is no other thing. That's it's not the same. You need two separate factors, something you know, something you have, something you are. I think everybody here knows those things, but generally it is username, password, cell phone, or fob or token is usually how it goes. There are fingerprints, iPhones, Android, stuff like that too. Very few retina scanners. My hospital makes you scan your palm print. There are two factors that are something you have as well. And so the summary is there's no way to really pull off that advice, right? Everything must be different. Services and systems must be different. The only way to pull that off is some sort of vault. And a password vault, I think we all are pretty good at understanding what those are. I get asked all the time, what vault do you recommend? What's the go-to vault? I have no clear answer for you. The answer is generally the easier it is to use, the less secure it's going to be, right? So it depends on which entity I'm doing business for. I have them all. I have a LastPass, I have a OnePass, I have a KeyPass. Take your pick. And it's generally what that organization and the risk tolerance is and ease of use. I would just recommend it's something that gets audited from time to time and they actually do something about it. There are vaults out there that somebody's found a vulnerability and they've never fixed it. There's vaults that nobody ever looks, and those scare me. Like most things, Windows, Microsoft, Apple, there's going to be vulnerabilities. As long as somebody's looking at it and patching it in a reasonable amount of time, that's probably your safest you're going to get. If you have less tolerance to risk, go offline like KeyPass sitting on your machine. But then what if your hard drive crashes? There's additional stuff. Most consumers are landing on KeyPass or OnePass for their vaults. I'm not pitching one or the other. I'm not going to say what you should do, but generally if it will fill something in for your browser for you, it's less secure. But is it less secure than having them all be the same? There's your trade-off, right? One lady asked me, what if I write all the passwords on the back of my door? Is that good or bad? I said, well, what are you trying to protect against? What were you doing before, right? If your passwords are all the same right now and you make them all different right on the back of your door, that's a win. That's a step up. I'll take it. Would I do that? No, but that's a step in the right direction. Just changing them is a step in the right direction. If they walk away with nothing more from your security awareness training, then they should change their password one exclamation point to something else, then you've won. They don't need to get all the information out of your presentation. Can they get something out of it? Something to change, something to do a little bit better. Any questions on passwords? Again, you get a lot of weird questions here, but it's good to stop from time to time, poll your audience, make sure you rein them in, see where they're at, and clear things up. People sometimes don't understand what a vault is. I go to a bank and put it in there. Like sometimes you have to explain it, make it really clear on what these things are. Okay, so local admin. This is huge and it's hot and it's hard, but let's talk about it. The biggest thing on local admin is I push really hard to teach people that it's not, we hire Bob and we hire Susie and accounting and accounts payable and finance and HR, and we trust them to do their jobs. We hire them to do their jobs and they do their jobs well, hopefully, right? We're not worried about what they do. We're worried about what their computer can do on their behalf, right? It's what can I do as a criminal on that computer? That's the concerning part. If you have access to all financial, all accounts payable, all intellectual property because you've always had it, well, from an attacker standpoint, that's amazing, right? If they view it as only we're taking away your access, people get offended. They get upset about it. You got to explain the why and the how. And that is, I'm worried what your computer can do on your behalf. What can you write to? Your computer can write to, right? So story time, let's walk through, and this one, depending on the audience, can be a little bit over their head, but I think you can explain it in a good enough manner. I always like to show them what real kind of tools an attack looks like, to show them here's kind of the reality. Here's what your computer can do on your behalf. So on a goal on an engagement, we phished you or got through your password, right? We're already on your box, either logged in with your front door keys or you phished and let us in, intentionally or not. Next slide, I already said all that. Okay, so what are the objectives here? With local admin, what can you do? Almost anything on that box. I can disable, bypass the AV, install whatever I want, disable your user access control, or circumvent any policies. You know that group policy we're talking about? Let's push that no macro thing. Well, if I'm local admin, let's just turn that off, right? So what is local admin? I forgot to explain that. A local admin is essentially if you can install programs on your computer without anybody else doing anything, you're generally a local admin, which most organizations have because it's hard to take away. I have found, though, I've done it successfully in an organization. We took away full local admin. It took a while, but actually support went down. It sounds counterintuitive, right? No, support's going to go up. People always constantly. We came up with patching systems, and once your system's installed and operating for most people, it doesn't really change. You'll get a request for new software from time to time, but it's almost the same. And they can't wreck it. It's there. It's the same. If something gets compromised, it's stuck in a limited user account. Everything actually gets better and easier. The upfront part is the pain. And I guess I give a little more wisdom. If you ever want to roll out removing local admin, if you want to kill that objective, you want to make sure it does not succeed and it will not work in your organization, roll it out to everybody at the same time. Remove local admin, everybody at the exact same time. And you have all the ammunition you need from the lowest person employee to the CEO on why we cannot do this and it will not work. I know because I've tried that too. It doesn't work, right? The right way to do it, from my perspective and what I found, is you roll it to a small group. You pick somebody. Marketing. Let's do marketing. There's 3 people in marketing. So we're going to do Friday, telehelp desk. Friday at this time, we're removing local admin. We send a notice to their manager. This is happening. Expect some additional phone calls. And you roll it out to marketing, 3 users. You let it bake in a week or 2. Pretty soon you have a good baseline there. Then you pick another department. You roll it. Maybe it's twice the size, 3 times the size. Chop your org up into reasonable sections and roll it there. See what the feedback is. What are the pain points? How much extra work is it for your help desk? And eventually you'll get it to, now, last thing, don't do your executives or your superintendents until last. Wait till the very end. If you don't want them talking with the other person about their pain at the same water cooler. Yeah, this sucks. Yeah, this really does suck. We're going to kill this. Yeah, I'm going to kill this, right? Once everybody's rolled out, roll it out to your superintendents. Hey, the entire org is doing this, and we've been doing this now for 9 months. I don't see why you guys can't do this. Here's the issues. And they get on board with it most of the time. And it is doable. But if you want to kill it, like you want all the ammunition to kill it, just push it everywhere and be like, security's too hard, it'll never work. And you're right, it will be. And you'll hear from everybody complaining about it. Okay, that was a big tangent. Okay, so we're local admin. The last thing we want is system, right? System, the only additional with system versus local admin is I can read memory, which is important. So how hard is it to go from local admin to system? Depending on mitigating controls, but in most environments, literally, we just type get system, right? It seems silly, and this does seem Hollywood, but that is reality. You literally just type get system, okay? So what do you do with that information? So we want highly privileged users. So we fished, say, a secretary. We have a secretary's account. She's a local admin. And again, this is not far-fetched. This is probably 90% of the engagements. Secretary has local admin. What do you want? I want one of you guys, right? I want a highly privileged user. I want IT, I want a help desk, I want a supervisor, I want somebody who has some keys to the kingdom. Maybe not all. All would be great. Domain admin would be amazing. If they could just, give me that. But usually you're going to try to escalate that, right? So I want a highly privileged user. And the way to do that is we just enumerate, get more data, more information, run some tools out there. This one is called Bloodhound. And all it does is once you're on a box, you just say, go enumerate this domain. And it will crawl through the entire domain and say, here's the fastest way to get to a domain admin. This box over here has a domain admin logged into it right now, right? Because it's part of your domain, your group. It knows what the other machines are. So then you know what machines to attack to get a highly privileged user. So we run some tools. This one's a PS attack tool. It'll say find local admin. And this is legitimately from one of our pen tests. This happened. So the user we're logged into, that secretary, we say, what other machines is she an admin on? Oh, great. Goody, right? A lot. She's not just a local admin on her machine. She's a local admin on a lot of machines. So with that information, you go find that machine, go back. Here's that machine. Let's log in with her credentials to that machine, and let's go dump the hashes. So we go dump the hashes. And depending on how it is, we might have to put them in a crack, or sometimes they're just straight up in memory. Here's that password of the domain admin, just sitting there in clear text because we can read memory. And what can we do with domain admin? everything. So this story seems sometimes a little high, depending on your audience. You might want to go a little lower. But essentially, you're showing them how easy it is to take a single fish, a single password, and take down the entire domain with that, right? And that's what happens. Or in some scenarios, you just want to ransomware that entire thing, lock everything out. Once you get keys to the kingdom, domain admin, let's go ransomware, lock it all out. See on time, okay. So again, it's not Susie, Bob, Carl, it's not these people, and we don't trust them. It's what their computers can do on their behalf. We don't want their computer to be the one thing that takes down their entire domain because they got phished. They accidentally clicked on it. They had a bad relationship with their spouse, and that divorce paper just, boom, right? And it takes down your entire domain. So removing local admin, I'm not going to say it's easy because I have failed at it before, and I've also succeeded at it. And I've learned ways to do it a little better, a little easier. It is hard. It can be hard, but it is totally doable. And the hardest one to do are probably developers. But you can give them different environments. So I would wait for them to be completely last before you start getting into developers because they're the ones who are constantly changing their environment. Most people are running pretty standard environments. Principals, superintendents, organizations, CEOs, CFOs, VPs, they just want their stuff to work. They just want to run their business. They just want them to do it. And you can actually have better uptime and do things better without local admin. As long as you're patching, getting rid of the annoying pop-ups that are on their screen, they don't like that, right? Okay, so we're going to touch on ransomware. So sometimes it's take down your domain, steal your intellectual property, hook in your system, but sometimes it is just straight up ransomware. I mean, Idaho paid out a ransomware last year, right? Paid it out. That's crazy, right? And I do get asked this a lot. Would you pay ransomware? I would like to think we wouldn't be in a position where we would have to make that decision. That's the answer. But listen, if your grandma's pictures were on this machine, it's all that you had of her, I'm not going to tell you not to pay it. I just don't like the idea of paying criminals to get my own stuff back. It's like somebody, I don't like it, especially when there's a way to do it right. Okay, so for ransomware, again, long, boring sentence, but people liked it. Where your eyes go, I'm going to make things big. I'm going to underline, I'm going to bold it. I want you to read that one sentence. The rest of it doesn't really matter as much. Again, it's about money. And ransomware, a lot of money. They paid out a lot of money. These are all kind of estimates. We don't really know. People paying crypto coin. Wallets are trackable. Some wallets aren't, right? Go from Bitcoin, you can track it, then it goes to Zcash. Oh, it's gone. I don't know. So is it 1 billion? Is it greater? Is it a little less? Don't know. These came from the FBI. Assume it's pretty accurate. We're not going to have time for this, but I have a ransomware demo, and depending on the org, I will show what it looks like for files, what it looks like when you open them, what does it look like when they get encrypted, and that file shares get encrypted as well, backups get encrypted as well. Essentially, the summary of this entire video is anything that user can write to, ransomware can write to. If somebody in finance can write to HR stuff, so can ransomware. Reducing access is very important. What do they need to do their job? Give them access to that, get rid of the rest. So why is this part of the security awareness training? Because you're trying to teach them, we do want to give you access to do your job, right? We need you to do your job, we need it to function. But there's no need, you need access to everything. And it's not that I'm scared of you prying or looking, I'm scared of what your computer can do on your behalf. Same thing, right? I was playing this video earlier before people walked in if they saw it. Okay, so here's some of the stats on this stuff. Again, a lot of bullet points. I'm going to use contrast to make you follow me along like sheep, right? You wouldn't say that to your audience, but the point here is we can direct people what to look at, what we want to focus on in our presentations. What can they take away? It's not overwhelming and daunting and spitting fire, right? So Bitcoin, anonymous crypto coin, is the #1 reason that ransomware is booming, right? If somebody kept running up to you in the street, took your stuff and said, give me money to get this back, right? We could catch them, call the cops, get some face descriptions, do it enough times, you'd probably catch them, right? Because we can do anonymous crypto coin, people are just doing it, and it's hard to track, and there's no way to catch them yet, right? So this is part of that other part where I said, #1 reason is money. Secondary motive is still money, even when it doesn't appear like money. This would be that scenario, right? So I've compromised your machine over here, but it doesn't look like I've attacked you or done anything with it. but then it went and attacked their entire organization with your machine. And where does the government and the FBI go knocking? They go to you. Hey, why did you do this? And you're like, I don't know. My machine was running slower, right? So sometimes even when it doesn't appear to be about money, you might just be the pivot point to something else. Are you responsible? Maybe, maybe not. More attacks against business than ever before. Ransomware they're going after very specific industries, and it's they'll find a vulnerability or hook in something, and they'll just go across the gambit with it, right? So in healthcare, we found this issue, and they'll just go hit all healthcare they possibly can, right? It's a lot like Showdown, these other stuff. You'll find a single port or single vulnerability, and just go scan the internet for the same thing. You don't need to go find little vulnerabilities in everybody's little system. You just find one and spread it across the internet and see what you can hit, right? Is that healthcare? Is it education? Is it police precincts, et cetera, right? Hotel systems, government. Ransomware is not slowing down, right? It's going after all major industries. So the point of this in a security awareness training is to show, why does it matter to you? If I'm teaching health education, which we do a lot of, I tell them education sectors, K through 12s, colleges have all paid ransomware, right? And it's just going nuts. It is factor of 30x in 2016. Every 40 seconds, an organization gets hit with ransomware. Well, what does that mean? Probably a fish with a payload of ransomware, right? It doesn't mean 40 seconds they're all getting popped, but phishing is prevalent. Those word macros, huge, hot. Got to shut those off, right? Okay, so why does it matter? Why should you get rid of local admin? These type of things. These legitimately happen, right? WannaCry, these type of systems, and they come out and will ransomware all your stuff because you didn't patch or you had a bad password, somebody clicked on something. So it is important to get the user on your side, right? To not shame them for clicking on it. I think the moment you start beating up your employees for failing on some of this stuff, you've already lost. They are your front eyes in this matter. They are your first line who should tell you, I clicked on that, I probably shouldn't have, a box popped up. Instead of, I clicked on it, box popped up, last time I got a write-up. I'm not gonna say anything. Maybe they won't know it was me, right? You don't want that. But if you do a position of shaming, that will happen. I've seen both sides too. The best I saw was they rewarded them. They sent out internal phishing, and the first person to report it got an Amazon gift card, right? It was a way to gamify, incentivize people to find stuff. Find what fits for your organization, but I think shaming people is not the right way. Maybe bringing them in for some one-on-one security awareness training is a good idea. But don't make them your enemy. Your front line are your users. Your help desk is your users. Make them your allies in this stuff. So yeah, who's paid? We kind of touched on this. This one, like police departments, I couldn't even imagine being over that. Like, what do you feel like you should be calling the police, but there is the FBI, but like, yeah, paying ransomware, it sucks. Nonprofit home users, grandma's pictures back, and they encrypt everything you can write to. Thumb drives, docked externals, anything that user can write to, it'll encrypt. OneDrive, Google Drives. So there's some protection in those depending if revision control and stuff like that, which we'll briefly go over. This one is not politically motivated, but I like to put it in here because this really exists. This is out here in the wild. It's called the Trump ransomware. And the headline is, it puts a wall around your files and makes you pay for it. It's not political. Again, this is reality. This exists. People can take any variant of a ransomware, merge that, and make another version of it, and bam, Trump ransomware is out, right? Okay, so the primary takeaway of all that is, what can people do about these things? If you don't give people actionable things they can do, like change your passwords, please just make them different, right? Try to run, personally, I don't run as local admin. Mac, Windows, I don't run as local admin. I'm a limited user. In fact, I made a power change setting here so it wouldn't fall asleep. I had to go log in as my admin user to make a power setting change. I don't run as local admin, right? I don't think any user should run your home computer. You should not run as local admin. Run as a limited user, right? If you accidentally click on that link, it shouldn't just download the payload and run it. It should be like, here's a password to run this payload. And you're like, no, right? Don't run as local admin. Reduce access. What do you need to do your job? That's it. Get rid of the rest, right? People always like, hey, here's a key to this building. I'm like, I don't want it. I don't even be responsible for that, right? Do I need that to do my job? No, I don't want it. I don't want to be liable. I don't want to be responsible for it. And as technology people, you should do the same to your users. If they don't need it, don't give it to them. Take it away. Reduce it to what they need to do their job. Backups and doing backups right. I've seen both, right? Revision control, great. Offsite, even better. Both good. Things that they can't write to, turn to read only, even better. There are paid programs that'll just do this for you, nice and clean and easy, but they cost money. There's also ways you can do this yourself, but people tend to implement them poorly. So there are ways to do this, but get them validated. Make sure you got good backups. You should never have to pay ransomware for your grandma's pictures or for your entire organization. And the backup shouldn't be so cumbersome that it's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks to recover, to the point where we have the management decision. Let's just pay it. And patching, not a sexy topic. Don't really want to talk about it. It's kind of boring. But got to patch your machines. You don't patch your machines, they can just walk right in on that. All right, so when I first started doing trainings on security awareness, this was my slide. I was really proud of this. We made this. I had somebody help because I wasn't so good at Photoshop. And I call it Breach Plaza. So you can see by the orgs in here about the time frame that was. And I kept saying, like, this is Breach Plaza, right? And these are the companies that are in it. And we don't want to have your organization in here. The problem was Breach Plaza filled up fast, right? This was a while ago. It kept slowing. I'm like, I don't know any other companies to add to it, but pretty fast it went to Breach Mall, right? So Breach Mall just started popping in. Again, this is old. This is an old, like, it's good and bad. The good news is, for Breach Mall, is that it's ever expanding. They had just got room. They just keep going. And the whole primary goal of this, especially in your security awareness training, is we need you as the users help to stay out of here, right? And we're going to get in here to some extent or another, but we want it to be a small place and not the entire org is down. We don't want to be Sony where we are faxing things, right? We don't want to be like, we can't do our jobs or we hate to do our jobs because we've wrecked it so bad. We need the users' help to stay out of Breach Mall. We can't get into Breach Plaza. It's already full, right? Okay, a lot of information. At the end, let's breathe. We're good. We're not spitting scorpions. We're not breathing fire. Walk away with one actionable thing. What is one thing that you guys can do to improve your organization? What is one thing that user can do to improve their organization? Can they maybe just be aware of those emails, validate at the source, right? Maybe they just change their passwords to something better. Maybe their work and personal passwords aren't the same. Whatever your passwords are, I'm not saying jump right to a vault that you encrypt yourself and you send to your backups, but maybe you just start using a vault. Maybe you just pick 3 passwords instead of your 1. Just wherever you're at, take that next step. Ask your users to do the same thing. Improve something just a little bit. Let's patch. When that annoying pop-up comes up, let's set a time to actually do it. If you're the IT, why don't we have a technology that does it for us? SaltStack, Puppet, Ansible. Why don't we have something that solves it for us on the patching? And local admin, I put it up there. It is hard to do. It is totally worth it. You can't secure some other stuff. You can't have a hardened system without it, right? How do you know what services and software is on a system if you have local admin? Well, it doesn't matter what's on there. They just put something else on there, right? So make a logical step to do it. Any questions? Okay, well, I appreciate your coming along with me on this. Again, it's not the super fun topic. Awareness training sounds boring, but you can present it in a way that works for your users. It doesn't have to be this. I'll be more than happy to share you guys these slides. You can still use it however you want or make your own, but make it fit your organization where it's not just going through 12 PowerPoints of compliance checking where nobody wants to do that. Now, there's a link up here somewhere, so just bear with me 2 seconds. There we go. And you may or not go to that. If you want to get it offline, I'll give it to you too. But make something that works for your environment, that's engaging, that tells them the why and the how. And don't just put up 16 things in your PowerPoint and expect them to walk away and then say, why did you click on that thing that we told you not to in that meeting you slept through, that I slept through as a presenter, right? It's hard. And really the number one reason why I got asked to do this and why it seems to go well when I do it is because I actually like doing it, right? So that's kind of messed up a little bit. I'm not saying you have to do that, but you can find something, a part of you that you can enjoy presenting on. And if you have passion in it, people will take something away from it and hopefully just make something a little better. Thank you for your time.